This is only temporary.
What about our magic windows?
We'll bring him back with a vengeance, don't worry. Glad you got your hand back? Our all-time favourite movies.
Which all happen to be exactly the same.
Go figure.
You didn't want to do top 10 books first?
I think we need to read a little more before we make that list.
Good call. Coming in at number 10 is Alfonso Cuarón's 2006 sci-fi action thriller, Children of Men. Based on P.D. James' novel of the same name, Children of Men follows former activist turned cynical bureaucrat Theo Farron as he navigates a dystopian 2027 where women have mysteriously become infertile and the UK is the last remaining bastion of humanity. All thanks to their tea and stones, no doubt. Helming an adapted screenplay co-written by 4 other screenwriters and coming off the success of Prisoner of Azkaban, Alfonso well had his work cut out for him with this flick. Good thing the writers didn't butt heads and the collaboration came together, because Alfonso blew Children of Men out of the park. The movie was hugely successful across the board, mostly thanks to Alfonso's signature long takes that make the piece at times one of the most intense viewing experiences anyone could sit through. Although from what I've been told, just to add to Alfonso's technical genius, these takes aren't in fact long takes at all, but rather short clippets all spliced together to give the illusion of a long take. Clive Owen, Julianne Moore, Michael Caine, and Chiwetel Ejiofor all breathe life into this bleak, ugly dystopia with wonderful portrayals of their complex and well-realised characters. And finally, just to highlight the positivity surrounding this film, P.D. James herself said she was proud to be associated with the movie, even with the drastic changes that were made from her original work to suit the moving image. Don't wait until 2027 to see if this all turns out to be true. Go watch Children of Men. You won't be disappointed.
Coming in at number 9 is Jose Padilla's action crime drama Elite Squad. Based off a book by 2 Rio de Janeiro Special Forces policemen and the city's then acting public safety coordinator, Elite Squad centres around Captain Nascimento as he cleans up the streets of Rio de Janeiro in time for the Pope's visit, all while searching for a suitable candidate to take his position. You wouldn't have guessed this was Jose's directorial debut in a fictional feature-length movie, because at the time, he only had a documentary under his belt. Albeit, it was one of very similar subject matter to Elite Squad, which explored Brazil's criminal justice system and its treatment of the lower class. So much controversy surrounded the book when it was released, much of which resulted in the reprimandation and censure of Andre Batista, one of the book's policeman writers. But hey, we're here to talk about the movie. There's something about the colours and grittiness of Brazilian cinema that leaves me completely spellbound, the inspiration of which Jose no doubt took from another Brazilian movie that will appear on this list. And if there's one thing I need to mention, it's Wagner Moura's pitch-perfect portrayal of Captain Nascimento, tenacious, intimidating, and ruthless among the Rio favelas, but behind the mask, a tired and battered man ready to settle down with his wife and newborn son. Nothing but high recommendations for this one. Go see it if you haven't.
Hooah! At number 8 we have Tarantino's alternate history war flick, Inglourious Basterds.
Bastards. These Yanks have been them the devil.
That's right. I think Inglourious Basterds is better than Pulp Fiction. And if you got a problem with that, come Bell Street Macca's, because I'ma sort you out. In Nazi-occupied France during World War II, a plan to assassinate Nazi leaders by a group of Jewish US soldiers coincide with the theatre's own vengeful plans with the same outcome. This is the movie, in my honest opinion, that best exemplifies Tarantino's skill set. A versatile ensemble cast of unforgettable characters. Borderline absurdist examples of violence contrasted with scenes of a fluffier tone. And extended lines of dialogue that, unlike some of his other movies, suits the characters and setting perfectly. And of course, you can't talk about this movie without mentioning Christoph Waltz's wonderful Hans Landa performance, a portrayal that put him on the Hollywood map. Quentin himself has said that he writes his screenplays like a novel, and seeing as he began Bastards way back in '98, I think it pays to show what can come of your work when you spend 11 years mastering it. Undeniably Tarantino's best movie, full stop, next thank you, Jordy.
In at number 7 we have Paul Thomas Anderson's period drama There Will Be Blood. Inspired by the descriptions of oil drilling and the life of workers in Upton Sinclair's 1927 novel Oil, There Will Be Blood centres around silver miner turned oilman Daniel Plainview on his ruthless quest for wealth during the 19th and 20th century oil booms over Southern California. This is definitely a hard movie to watch at times, but there's no denying its excellence. Plainview's lonely descent into lunacy, a performance downright mastered by meticulous method actor Daniel Day-Lewis, who spent a year preparing for the role, is a character arc that's up there with the best of them. What I also found intriguing from an interview with KRCW, PTA mentioned how he wrote what he thought was too much material for the film, but by the time he got on set, he was able to edit much of it down just by looking at Day-Lewis in character, and then even more so by eating steak and drinking vodka in the editing room, just to get inside the head of Plainview. I don't know about you, but as much as I admire the creative processes of these people, I do wonder where their methods justify the means to produce what they did, or if the same brilliant movie could have been made with a more traditional approach? I guess we'll never know. Inc., let's see number 6.
In at number 6 we have Matthew Kassavitz's independent black and white drama La Haine. Released in '95, La Haine stars Hubert Condy, Saïd Tagmoi, and the now wider recognised Vincent Cassel, who play 3 friends from a poor immigrant neighbourhood in Paris and chronicles their lives for 24 hours the day after a riot. This isn't a traditionally told story, and truth is the movie is a slow burn for the most part. But Kassovitz draws you in with the aesthetic Paris setting. He draws you in with his unique eye for the moving image. He draws you in with the down-to-earth interactions between these 3 friends and their authentic personalities. There's a real catcher-in-the-rye feel to this movie overall, and it serves to highlight much of the unrest Parisians were all too familiar with at the time. Even while filming, Kassovitz and the crew were under a lot of pressure from French councils, and being something of a protester himself, it's fascinating to learn that he used unstaged footage of riots, taken some 10 years earlier, in the final cut. It also baffles me that when you go to his IMDb page, knowing he has such a critically acclaimed movie like La Haine under his belt, most of Kassovitz's working credit actually goes towards his acting. I mean no disrespect to the craft, but I think this is testament to what you can create when you're working with subject matter that's very personal to you. A movie as well executed as it was influential, and my top pick for French cinema. Back to you, Jordy.
Thanks, Inc., and getting down to the best of the best now. For our next pick we have Carol Reed's 1949 British film noir classic, The Third Man. Set in post-war Vienna, we follow American pulp novelist Holly Martins, who arrives in Vienna to accept a job for his old friend Harry Lime, only to find that his friend is now dead. Suspicious of the matter, Martins opts to stay in Vienna to investigate. This has it all. Expressionist lighting and cinematography complete with Dutch tilts, a large ensemble cast who all perform their roles remarkably, witty dialogue, a recurring signature theme tune that elevates the noir genre, and an ever-evolving mystery which leaves you guessing right up until the reveal. I can't see a way to criticise this movie. It's just so successful across the board. And it pains me that I can only say so much about it without getting into some real spoiler territory. So for those of you yet to see this, please watch it. For those who have, well, you already know.
For our number 4 pick, it's Ridley Scott's 1979 sci-fi horror/thriller, Alien. It's the year 2122, and the crew of the commercial space tug Nostromo, after exploring a distress signal from an unidentified ship, have unintentionally set loose an aggressive and deadly alien life form aboard their own. I love this movie so much. I don't even know where to begin.
I've never seen anything like it.
Okay, let's begin with the set design. Prior to the release of this movie, most sci-fis were known to look a little overly fantastical, one could say. Arguably all in a bid to establish that sense of escapism fans of the genre warm to. But Ridley said, let's get real here. A spaceship would be dusty, run down, claustrophobic even. Let's have a ship that the alien could make its hunting ground, where it could come out and get you when you least expect it. Then, of course, we have a mostly unknown cast of actors who all receive an equal amount of screen time. So when people start to go, and go they do, we as a viewer can't speculate on who's going to get out alive. if anyone. There's the intricate yet terrifying design of the alien, with ligaments and cartilage that blends into the ship's environment to make it almost impossible to identify. And finally, who could forget that infamous scene that took even the actors by surprise? Arguably the most influential movie of both the horror and science fiction genre, and a classic for years to come. All yours, Jordy.
Down to our final three now. For third place, and while I could have just as easily picked its counterpart in comedy, Airplane,
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
we're going with Mel Brooks' Western black comedy Blazing Saddles. In order to ruin a western town, a corrupt politician appoints a black sheriff, who promptly becomes his most formidable adversary. By now I think it should be clear that I have a huge love for all things comedy, and in this day and age, I could do with a little more content that doesn't take itself so seriously.
Well, my name is Jim, but most people call me Jim.
Blazing Saddles ticks all the boxes for me, and the story of its conception, with Mel posting a large sign to his writers asking not to write a polite script, and then having drunken fistfights with them all while writing, sounds almost as ridiculous as the movie itself. I've heard some people say they wish the sheriff's role went to Richard Pryor, considering his dynamic with Gene Wilder from other movies. But as much as I respect Pryor's work and contribution to the film, I couldn't for the life of me see anyone other than Cleavon Little for the role.
Ow! Oh, ow! Have you ever seen such cruelty?
There's so many bits I could comment on with Blazing Saddles. The Camptown ladies, Mungo punching the horse, frontier gibberish, the sheriff's arrival in Rockridge, the French mistake, the cast bursting through the walls of the Warner Brothers set. That one random guy who walked into the middle of a take and got left in the final cut just because everyone thought it was funny.
Can I have my turn now?
Yep, sorry, Hank, go ahead.
Ready? Go!
In second place, we have Seth Gordon's competitive arcade documentary, The King of Kong. Forget Sherlock and Moriarty, Professor X and Magneto, Harry and Voldemort. Hell, forget David and Goliath. The rivalry between these two is simply unmatched. Meet Steve Wiebe, an underappreciated science teacher in Redmond, Washington,
Oh, he's just come up short in a lot of things.
and one of the world's best players of the original 1981 Donkey Kong game. Now, meet restaurateur and egomaniac Billy Mitchell.
When you want your name written into history, you have to pay the price.
The man Steve contends with for the Kong High score.
Is the best classic arcade gamer of our era.
They say truth is stranger than fiction, and I can't think of a better example than this movie. In Steve's pursuit for the King of Kong title, we meet some larger-than-life characters of the gaming community. Most are allies of Steve, and while they can only offer advice and encouragement as he chases Bill's high score, it slowly becomes evident that they as a community provide for Steve what he really needs most. Then there are others, vassals of the dreaded Billy Mitchell who, in a bid to keep his high score, takes actions that compromise his integrity and everything he stands for. There is character development here that writers spend years locked away in rooms trying to cultivate. Seth got all this as a bonus, and only had to worry about being in the right place at the right time.
Is that true? Then we better get practicing.
This movie plays out like any Hollywood blockbuster you've ever seen before, but that's just it. It's a documentary, which is what makes all of it so gripping. Because there was never a man more deserving to be knocked from his throne than Billy Mitchell.
You're really not good enough.
And there was never a man more deserving of the high score than Steve Wiebe. Does Steve defeat his arch nemesis to claim the high score? Best watch The King of Kong to find out.
I gotta try losing sometime.
Before we reveal the first place pick, there's some movies that didn't quite make the list that still deserve a mention of their own. And our number one pick. In the favelas of Rio, two kids' paths diverge as one struggles to become a photographer, while the other establishes his cocaine empire. When I think about my favourite works of art, it all comes down to how well the artist has utilised the medium. It feels like when you watch this movie that Fernando took an all or nothing gamble on every aspect of the filmmaking process, and against all odds, every single one paid off. From wasting no detail in the impeccable sound design, with ever-present rattles, murmurs and musical notes from what I believe is a theremin, some could have easily found annoying, but ultimately it served to cement the viewer in the favelas of Rio. To enlisting the services of cinematographer Cesar Chalone, who worked like some kind of gonzo journalist on the set, capturing footage that would make any able-minded editor flee from the production in fear. But then enters Daniel Rosende, who I consider to be the real hero of this production, splicing together the craziest shots and sounds to produce, and I may be being a little overzealous here, a never-before-seen result in the history of motion pictures. There's the factor that the majority of the cast are kids and locals from the area who, while mostly untrained in the art of acting, rose to the occasion with their roles thanks to Fernando's directorial excellence. There's our antagonist Lil Z, a villain who may have been accused for being too evil, were this film not set in an area as dangerous and lawless as the favelas of 60s and 80s Rio. And finally we have our protagonist Rocket, a photographer who endeavours to stay uncorrupted by Rio's crime-ridden streets in a bid to escape them, and the best example of a flat character arc that I can think of.
Se liga aí, mané. Honestidade não compensa.
I'd say Fernando won a massive gamble, but that would completely undermine the efforts of these masters of cinema, who are all simply on top of their game when making this movie. City of God, don't be that unlucky sod who hasn't seen it.
And there we have it. Thank you all for watching.
Got another Just Jordy coming up. I need to have a little spiel about my writing.
Spiel?
That's how it's pronounced, apparently.
When do I get my own segment?
When you actually have something worthwhile to talk about.
You.
We'll see you all next time.